And we are back. Leilani, you are with the Millennial Voting Power Group.
Yes.
Is that how you say it?
The organization.
Organization.
Yes.
Cool. I wanted you to jump in on the conversation about our elected officials and just millennials voting in general.
Okay, so Millennial Voting Power came about simply because working on campaigns in the past, we would knock on doors, we only hitting the triple prime voters' doors and people who we know may turn out the vote, and it just was not enough time to educate people at the doors who seemed to me really need to know what's going on in their local communities.
Absolutely.
And it was just frustrating because it's not enough time on the campaign to do that. So once the campaign is over, it was just like, okay, it's done. We're not touching those people anymore. And so MVP came about where we're mobilizing and educating, empowering, activating young people who typically do not care to participate with anything with government.
Right.
And I feel like this is an overlooked group, an overlooked population, oftentimes young people and, you know, people in their 35, 45-year-olds who are also maybe returning home from prison, who are now entering society, who just are trying to figure out why are these things set up this way. I thought, you know, where's my chance? Where's my opportunity? Where's my voice? Where's my power?
Right.
And they feel powerless. There's no one really connecting with them on a consistent basis, and that's what MVP is pretty much what we're all about.
That's awesome. And I think when we first met, this was one of my irritations, you know, that I think we've all worked on political campaigns. You get the list, you know, we want to see who's voted already. If you're a registered voter and you constantly vote, we're going to talk to you.
Right.
But when we skip over those doors, it might be Black, Latino, young folks that need to be spoken to.
Right.
We don't care about them because it's not going to get us the election.
Right.
And so it's very parochial, like we're only focusing on that one election, that one situation,
Right.
and what happens when the person doesn't get in office.
Right.
You just skip over that, you don't care about them, you don't go back.
That's right.
And it's a problem because, one, we're also missing out on Black men that think they can't vote because maybe they've been to prison. They think they can't vote because no one's coming to talk to them. We're missing out on people that need to be engaged, but because we don't have enough time or we don't have a big enough budget to knock on those doors all year round, we're just going to hit them up for 2 months.
Right.
You know, and bug them until they get out and vote. And they mad at us, but they did it because that's just their normal habit.
That's
Right.
right.
You know?
If I may,
Go ahead.
we started a 501c4, right, called the Black Lives Caucus. And that was spurned out of a campaign that we started called I Ain't Voting Until Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
Now, what we said was Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Black people should not vote for you until you incorporate into your platform policies that will really affect our community.
A Black
That's
agenda.
right. Yeah,
That's
the
right.
Black agenda.
That's right.
People
I like that.
looked at us like we were crazy. I was getting calls from grandmothers. Boy, you lost your mind. Dr. King fought for this.
Right,
It was ridiculous. But the truth of the matter is, we were selling ourselves out. We continue to sell ourselves out by voting for, like you said before, our oppressors. So how about we stop that and vote for people who really have our backs. Now, perfect example, there's a woman named Ann Swarm. She was running for Brooklyn District Attorney this recent cycle. A Jewish woman, right, who's privileged, who doesn't really understand this. Right? She gets it like your little press cool, but she doesn't get it, right? But what she understood was the law. Okay, and she worked on programs that had a profound impact on us.
Right.
A month and a half before the elections, she sought out the Black Lives Caucus. We consulted with her. We bought out 30 to 50 bodies a day. She was in last place a month and a half out. She finished in second place, right?
That's awesome.
But that's Black power.
That's
That's power of the people.
Absolutely.
That's
That's right.
this is how we move, right?
That's
So
right.
now we have this machine. It's not just Black Lives Matter marching all the time. No, we coming for you.
That's right.
Right now, we might not. We ran 5 candidates, right? One made it past the primary, but it's the start.
In New York City.
Here, right here for city council and the district attorney candidate. But this is what it is. It's about giving the power back to the people.
Right.
That's
And
right.
not just being puppets.
That's right.
I'm gonna tell you, these companies and these initiatives and these
Right.
campaigns going on, they come to black people and they say, I want you to get involved.
Right.
I want your
Right.
ideas.
I want your ideas.
I
Yep.
want you to help
I
us
want
out.
your energy.
But
I
you
want
know
your,
what?
Your black skin and pictures. I
They-
want
We
you
were
to
talking
look
about
good.
that, weren't we?
Exactly.
We were talking about that earlier.
But when the moment you got opinions, the moment you say, hey, this is
Yeah,
what I
whatever.
learned from the ground.
Yeah.
This is what they're telling me.
Right.
If it's not aligned with their agenda, nah, scrap that.
But that's why I want, especially with MVP, to be young people learning and understanding the process and the functions of government.
That's right.
And once they learn that, then they can make the assessment and see, okay, wait, well, hold up. I'm born and raised from Harlem, New York. And I went away to college, Columbia, South Carolina. Benedict College, a historically
That's
black
right,
college,
HBCU,
right?
in
I
the
just went
house.
to my homecoming last week.
Okay.
Shout out to BC.
Hey.
And, you know, what blew me away in that experience is that I was really naive. I was coming from up north, coming down south, thinking, I don't know what I thought. I guess I assumed that racism didn't exist. And it wasn't until I started working on Barack's campaign in 2008, we were at the doors. At the doors is where you really get to see
right.
communities.
That's
At the
right.
doors is where you really get to hear people's perspective.
right.
At the doors is where you really get to, like, you understand the fabric of this community and the mentality of this community.
Right.
There were poor whites living in a separate area, poor blacks living in this same struggles, same issues. However, the poor whites will vote for their own
Right.
oppressor
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
for the sake of maybe what? Why is that? Why is it that you store this power or keep this power here,
Right.
even if it means sacrificing yourself? Because literally that's
Right.
what it is.
Right.
And it just blew me away.
What do you think that is?
I think a lot of what I saw down south was interesting. When Barack announced he was going to run for president in 2008 in Columbia, South Carolina, South Carolinians were nervous because they started to see membership for the Klan boost up.
Oh,
So they haven't seen that in some time now. I mean,
Right.
like cars parked in the lawn. Like, I'm Greek. I don't know if you guys know what it's like, your frat house, a fraternity house. They have like a house
Right.
where they have their chapter meetings. Membership started boosting. Gun sales started boosting.
Wow.
So I was observing this
Right.
in the
right.
South.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then there was, I was called a nigger. I was, glass bottles were being thrown at us. We were put in the newspaper as like, oh, these little kids are playing hooky to vote for this black man.
Wow.
Right.
We're in college. We do look like we're 12 years old, granted.
That's right.
But you're gonna throw glass bottles? Really? Are you that passionate?
Wow.
And what I noticed was that people just did not understand functions of government. The complaints as to why they said, you know what, I'm not gonna participate, I'm not gonna vote, they don't care. I understand that frustration. Because growing up in Harlem, New York, my peers, I'm born in '89, this is the crack epidemic.
Dig it.
Right. Right.
So my peers' parents either fell victim to mass incarceration or their parents were strung out on drugs, and it
Right.
was treated not like a mental health issue, it was treated like a criminal
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
justice issue.
Right.
That's right.
We started policing people with mental health issues. I just wish that our community, it's unfortunate because now this community, fast forward, is
There's
broken
a,
up,
a
right?
lasting
Right.
effect.
Right, so
because of that.
it was a crazy impact to Harlem.
Yeah.
And I want to touch those people, my peers, that are frustrated with the system. A lot of people's first interaction with society is the system. There are some people who are born into the public housing system, criminal justice system. My parent is in jail. They ship them out. I don't have money to keep the phone on.
Right.
How do I, families are broken now.
Right.
ACS system is another interesting system. A lot of people are frustrated with systems. Anything they hear when it comes to system, they just
don't
like
wanna deal with it.
they don't want to deal with it.
right.
But what I want us to understand is that you have to, unfortunately, you live in a land of laws. We live in a land governed by laws.
Right.
And if that is your reality, until a spaceship comes and places you in another planet,
That's right.
you have to get in this
Might be
fight.
happening.
You have to get in this fight.
That's right.
Yeah,
You have to get in this fight, but you have to be smart. You have to arm
Right.
yourself. How do you do that? Well,
Right.
educate
That's right.
Right.
yourself on the powers that be, the functions of government. You spoke with about the woman who understood the systems. She understood laws. She understood how things operate, how things can move legally. We need that. We need more people willing to join forces with us, educate us,
Yeah.
help
Right.
guide us. And let's just cut out the tribalism.
Right.
There you go.
Because like Hawk is doing great things, you're doing great things. Why can't we bring our movements together?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
just to be quick, like
you're right.
it's
That's
really
right.
true. They will pick you up and say, they're doing something powerful right here. Hold on, let's hone in on this. And they try to control it, or they pin you against Black Lives Matter movement, or I pin you against you.
Right.
Right.
Divide and
Right.
conquer.
But we really need to just wake up.
Yeah.
We
There
say we woke.
We too controversial.
Right, you
Right,
say
right.
we woke, but we need to really be woke. We
Right.
really need to awaken
Right.
ourselves and understand the climate that we're in, where we are as a society, and understand that the power lies in the hands of the people.
There you go.
And
That's
as a
absolutely right.
union organizer, in my local 372, right now, unions are depreciating in terms of membership. There's a lot of young people who don't understand the reason why you have weekends off are because of unions.
That's right. Yeah.
A
That's
lot of
right.
people don't know that unions were at the forefront of the civil rights
right.
movement.
That's right.
That's right.
There needs to be a re-education happening here.
Right.
I feel like we've been led astray,
So
ran amok.
So, I mean, what is the labor movement right now? We have another court case. Right to Work is
Yes.
trying to sweep, across the country and make sure that workers are completely unprotected by a contract,
Right.
which means we're going back into slavery. You can, if I
Absolutely.
put some money on the table, you just have to take it. You have no right to
Absolutely.
it in your
Bargaining
contract.
chips.
That's what Right to Work is.
Right.
You know? And then we have these Supreme Court cases that's taken out state by state, taking out public service employees and making them work for crumbs. That's the future of this work. What are unions actually doing to have this conversation with workers? Like, what's the vibration right now?
So right now, as you mentioned, there's a Supreme Court case before this case, there was the Friedrichs case.
Right.
Where unions we were on pins and needles. We were afraid that if this hearing ruled in a certain way, not in our favor, this would potentially dismantle unions.
And before that was Harris v. Quinn.
Right. What happened was
Scalia died.
Scalia died.
Yeah.
Switch
That
it up.
tied the vote.
Sure.
So now we have a new case where it's very similar. Now they're talking about it's Janice versus AFSCME, and right now, last Thursday, they heard both sides of the argument, and now they're getting ready to rule on it. Now let's just be real. It's a very conservative Supreme Court
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
justice system that we have. Do we really believe that they're gonna vote in favor of
Right.
the people?
Right.
When I say the people, union, working people are poor,
People call.
working class people and the poor.
The path to being in the
The
middle
path,
class.
the path
Yeah.
to being
Yeah.
into the middle class.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Correct. And if we want to start playing around with that, and if they dismantle that, we're in trouble.
Absolutely.
And so right now, unions are mobilizing at the doors, educating people on, in New York State right now, the biggest fight right now for unions in New York State is Constitutional Convention.
Yeah.
We do not want them, so
Explain that.
yeah, so Constitutional Convention is every 20 years, they have the right to open
up
up
the books.
to make amendments
Negotiate.
to the Constitution.
For the state.
When you do that, first of all, it's in theory not a bad idea. Who's at the table
Right.
is the problem.
Right.
That's the problem, right?
Right.
So we're not really represented at this table when they decide to open up this
Right.
con-con. So what's at stake is your pensions,
Right to bargain.
access to public education,
The right to bargain.
right to bargain, collective
It's
bargaining.
major. It's major.
It's if you get injured on the job and you get hurt, they try to tell you, well, you know, what the argument right now in the Supreme Court justice is, with Janice versus ASME, is you should have the right to still get representation from unions, but you shouldn't have to pay.
You don't have to pay for it.
You shouldn't have to pay for it.
So the actual union structure is receiving no money, no income. So how can you pay an organizer? How can you pay legal? How can you pay for these resources that you need to operate a movement?
So now,
strip the union.
so now when you're starving the union.
Yeah.
So now if I get injured on the job and you're saying, well, you know, you got to negotiate that yourself. You don't have lawyers, you don't have money for that, or the knowledge of the tools maybe to represent yourself. Now you're pulling more of your own personal money to fight your own case when there's more power with collective bargaining if you have something as big as a union.
That's right.
I think, and I don't mean to cut you off, but with the Supreme Court, historically, the Supreme Court has not been on our side, right? They gave us Brown v. Board of Education, you know, for the folks. They gave, you know, our sisters, our mothers, Roe v. Wade. But like historically, the Supreme Court has said that our lives don't matter.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
So I every time I hear people say, I'll fight you to the Supreme Court, I'm like, Negro, please. The odds are more likely, I don't care who controls power in the court, to be on the opposite side. And the touchback on CONCOM, right? What I look at when I look at the Constitutional Convention is I look at, and this is without us getting into the weeds, I just look at the people who are against it, right? So you have pro-life, pro-choice. You have anti-gun, you have pro-gun.
That's right.
You just have everybody who holds power all the way down the line like, no, 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 do not open this thing up.
Right. So can I?
1 second.
All right, yeah,
we'll come back to you. We got to go to a break. We got to pay some bills now.
When you come into this space and you have family, friends, or foe, because there's a lot of haters out there,
absolutely,
who are constantly saying, you know, yeah, let this ride out in a year, you know, give her 6 months, give him, you know, 4 months, whatever. It'll die out. You're also dealing with, what was your expectation? Did you think you was going to come out and make $1 million? Did you think you were going to land, you know, 5 big accounts and be able to buy a new house in a year? Or did you understand that this was a marathon and not a sprint? What was your relationship to your own vision? Did you set expectations that were unattainable and unrealistic? Not that you can't have this miraculous 5-month, you know, amazing progress, but that's not the normal. And although most of us as entrepreneurs say, well, we're not normal, so you're not supposed to expect it, you still want to be realistic with life and things happening, death, dying, funerals, weddings, babies, divorces. There's lots of unexpected things that happen in any lifetime, but especially as an entrepreneur, because there's a heaviness to it.